my conceptual part of that is literally just trying to balance out the nutritional facts on the back of like a breakfast cereal, and so so it's like breakfast battle or something, and you have to find the right combination of things to sell.
Sugar.
Occasionally, Breeze, I will end up going on some forums and happen to come across some interesting questions that people have regarding games. And I came across this one on our board games over on Reddit. And one of the users is asking, is roll and move mechanic really so bad? I am developing a board game right now, and my game uses roll and move mechanic. I am afraid that publishers will reject my game because of it. Is roll and move mechanic really so bad? I think my game proposes enough strategic choices for players besides that, and it is fun to play. Would you consider buying such a game? So...
Not on that premise. I know nothing about their game.
Yes.
Other than that it has a roll and move mechanic.
Ah, yes, Monopoly, but not.
He literally invented, like, what, Parcheesi?
Yes, exactly. I have invented Schmarcheesy. It's great.
Well, in the biz, we call it input randomness. So when you're doing game design, and you're using like randomness to decide things, you have input randomness and output randomness. Output randomness is what a lot of people are familiar with. You move something into position, you roll dice to like attack them, and then depending on the results you get, it'll determine if your thing did the thing or not. And that's output randomness. Input randomness is like when you do something random at the start of your turn, like randomly generate a resource or pull a thing out of a bag or something.
Right.
And then you, from the randomness, then you make your like gameplay decisions. So like output randomness is you make your decisions first and then you see if they work. Input randomness is you get random stuff and then you get to make your gameplay decision.
I see. Okay.
So technically roll and move is input randomness. A lot of the times it kind of isn't though. Like in Monopoly it isn't, because you don't get any choices after you kind of land on a space, do you? Right?
You can choose to buy it or not buy it, or evade paying rent. I don't think that's a mechanic.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So yeah, basically, yeah, it still counts as input randomness then, because you roll there, and then if you end up on a place that's good or bad, you have no control over it. But I guess you still have decisions. But if you're doing roll and move, it's just to go around a circular board. It's generally not like a very compelling mechanic because it is a lot of luck and less strategy. But I know Zia Legends of a Drift System is a popular board game, and I was surprised to find out that has roll and move.
Really? Okay.
And you roll like a D12 in that game to move too. So sometimes you will roll like 3 spaces and piddle along, and sometimes you'll roll 12 and you will get to traverse the entire cosmos. And
yeah,
I guess that's part of what makes the game fun, but also I know that Zia has like a bunch of stuff you do after you move, and I think moving itself might be a decision that you make. I don't know if you actually roll at the start of every turn, but I think if you choose to move, you roll the die. But don't quote me on that. I haven't played it. I only know the roughs of it.
Yeah.
But it's not Monopoly though, and there's a lot of stuff you can do in Zia because it's like a open world space exploration trading game with like NPCs and events and all this other stuff like on the board. So roll and move isn't inherently bad. Rolling dice is fun because sometimes it sucks, but sometimes it's really, really exciting. And that's part of the reason why people like rolling dice to begin with. But if you make your game where it feels hard to do something simple, then it's bad. But if it feels rewarding to do something hard, it's better. Like if you go into a dice roll expecting to do something and you fail, then it sucks. But if you go into something and you're not expecting the result and you manage to get it, it's a good dopamine feeling.
Right. Yeah. I guess
that's something we had to
Yeah.
Got continue.
Oh, I was thinking, when I think about like roll and move, like in the most classic of the purest of forms, I'm thinking of like Chutes and Ladders, right? Like literally all I do is I roll a die and whatever happens.
Yeah, Chutes and Ladders is like not really like a game. There's no decisions.
No.
So it's more like it's like a dice rolling competition, basically.
Yeah. I came across something more recently too, when my nieces were over, and they got one of those Poppets games. And basically the Poppets game is just that. I roll a die, and however many is on the die, I pop that many of the Poppets, and the first person who's popped all the Poppets wins.
Yep.
Like, boy, this is the most boring ass game I've ever played in my life. Why are we playing this? There's no
it's literally.
strategy.
Oh yeah, no, it's literally for children. It's like it's all the excitement of rolling dice and nothing else. It's like,
which is great if you're a dice enthusiast.
No,
and it's like, if you're like really young and you don't really have like a concept of like probability or strategy, and you just want to do a thing, which is roll a die or pop the doodad, and then you get rewarded for it. And then, because you don't have a concept of how the game's actually working, it still feels like a game to you. The problem is when you get older and you understand how games and strategy work, you realize that this is not a game.
Yeah.
This is
yeah. If you had like a thing where you could play like mini golf, but you played a mini golf with like a D100 or something as your like golf ball, that's the golf with your friends that we never got to play, Alex, is and then whatever the die number is, it's like, oh, that's how many strokes you took. That would be something that would at least give you.
I got 100. Shit. Okay.
Yeah. Well. I guess we're over. Dice mechanics are used in so many different kinds of games, from tabletop all the way just down to like your board games, card games, even. But I feel like if that's all you have going for you, it ends up becoming kind of tricky to utilize as a game. People don't really feel like they have much input into it. There's no strategy to it. So what do you think is like a good medium between the randomness of something like cards or dice and then something that's more strategic elements where the player has direct input?
What's a good example of a game that has like a good?
Yeah. Besides Aegis.
Well, yeah, a lot of modern games that use dice kind of have figured out how to use them intelligently. It's a lot of times when you implement randomness into a game, you'll have like games that are like a push your luck sort of thing. People like push your luck mechanics, like Quacks at Quedlinburg. That's like a bag puller where you pull something out of a bag and you decide whether you want to continue. So that's like an example of input randomness, right? You get a thing and then you have to make a choice, and you get another thing, you have to make a choice. It's like playing 21. And there's like, deck builders are cool because the process of the game is you're loading your deck up with like things, and eventually you want that set of 5 cards you draw to be like the super wombo combo. So there's like an example of an interesting thing where you start with the starting deck in most deck builders is like X of a resource and Y of like an attack thing or something else, like Dominion and Star Realms and all that. So it's very predictable at the start. And then as you put more stuff into your deck, you're adjusting the randomness of your deck, and you're actively either making it more reliable or less reliable. And that decision of how to make that decision you're making with what you're putting into your deck and betting on what your future results are going to be, that's an interesting, cool part of randomness that you can do in a game. And dice games, Dice Forge is cool. You still, that's a game where you literally have dice and you can adjust the faces of the die. You can still totally, screw up and roll nothing, even if you adjust your die really well. I'm trying to think of like a game that uses dice in a kind of an input way. Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Dice Monsters.
Perfect.
You build a set. This is a game that hasn't existed in 20 years, but I always thought it was mechanically very cool. each you have a deck quote unquote of 15 monsters, and each monster has their own unique die. It's a D6 with different faces on it, and you have a die. That's your dice pool, your 15 dice pool. Every
Yes.
turn, you choose 3 of them to roll, and if you roll 2 stars, you get to summon a monster. You get to summon one of the monsters that's associated with the die, and I always thought that was really neat. And the other results of the die give you resources that you can spend to move, attack, or defend. And so that's, I always thought that was like the neatest. I always wanted to make a game that uses like that sort of mechanic. It wasn't like a perfect game, but it did do that whole premise of you build your deck. So there's one part you're making a decision to figure out how much randomness is going to be in your die pool. You can use lots of like low monsters that are reliable to summon, or you can use high level monsters that only have like one summon face on. Once you roll them, you get to summon a big cool god monster.
Perfect.
And then, or you could use use these dice that have more resource faces on, using those monsters' die specifically to roll lots of resources. And I always thought that was a very neat system, and I hope that somebody brings that game back someday. Come on, Restoration Games.
Make it happen.
I want it. I want Dungeon Dice Monsters.
Fair enough. General thoughts as we kind of close out this segment. Roll and move. Yes? No? Maybe? Please don't? What are we going with?
Contextually, don't do it if your game is Monopoly. Do it if moving is a functional decision that you can do and potentially do multiple times. So if you screw up your movement roll, you should be able to like do it again. Or it shouldn't be the end of your... Rolling a die should not be the end of your turn.
Should not be the whole turn.
Yeah, it should not be the whole turn. Your turn should not be entirely decided by a die roll.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too. Is like if you have a very linear board, like I'm just going around a racetrack and the only thing that I do is I just roll a die and there's the one path I'm taking, then that's not fun. I don't like that. If you even gave me multiple paths I could try to go down that might give me bonuses or benefits or something so that I make a choice at some point. I don't really like playing games where I have literally zero choice in the matter and I just have to hope that my die is good to feel like I accomplished something when I won. You know? That's not very fun.
If that's the only thing you get to do, I'd say pick something else that's not very engaging or fun.
Yeah.
But if you're using it to supplement another system, again, like the dice monsters that he was talking about, that sounds interesting. You know? But that's not roll and move, so...
Exactly.
Yeah. It's roll for resource generation is, I think, one of my favorite types of die roll things.
Right.
Because you always end up with stuff, and then you decide what to do with that stuff. I think is a good way to do it.
Yeah. I kind of like I don't know if they've made a game like this where you could just where you have several different resources that you can use to do stuff, and then if you roll the die you can say, okay, I'm going to try to get I need more of this one resource. I'm going to hope that my die roll ends up giving me a bunch of that. And then if it doesn't, you're like, oh, shoot. Now I'm going to have to hopefully come back. I needed iron really badly. or fiber. It's a fiber, iron, or protein or something.
Or maybe you rolled. You wanted an iron, but you rolled 3 fiber. Oh, cool! But I have a card that I saved from 3 turns ago that lets me turn 4 fiber into an iron, and I had another fiber left over, and now I can transmute my fiber into an iron, and now I can do the thing I wanted to do. It's games like that are cool. That's one of the designs that I have in the back burner, actually.
Oh, excellent.
I don't have a formal name for it. It's like an item crafting game. I just call it Crafty Bafty.
Oh, okay.
Literally like that. It's like that. Literally that thing.
Yeah. see, my conceptual part of that is literally just trying to balance out the nutritional facts on the back of like a breakfast cereal, and so you have to, so it's like breakfast battle or something, and you have to find the right combination of things to sell.
Sugar.
More sugar.
More sugar. Exactly. And then you just have to come up with like a fun concept for what the design looks like, name it, and see if it's yeah. So that's why, just carbs. Lots of carbs. Fat, sugar, salt. Make it happen. That's all you have. So anyway, so if anyone out there is listening and wanted to put your 2 cents in, do you have a favorite roll and move game that you'd like to share with us? Please hit us up over on our Discord channel and we'll talk about it more.